In October 2022, the United States introduced one of the most aggressive technology sanctions in modern history. The target was Chinese access to advanced semiconductors. The mechanism was a coordinated set of export controls covering high-end chips and the equipment needed to manufacture them. The most consequential piece was a restriction on Dutch-made EUV lithography machines from ASML, the only equipment in the world capable of producing chips at the leading edge. Without those machines, China could not credibly compete at 3 nanometers, 2 nanometers, or anything beyond. The expectation in Washington, openly discussed at the time, was that this would set Chinese semiconductor development back by roughly a decade. It is now early 2026. The expectation has not aged well. In March 2025, a research team at Peking University published a study in a peer-reviewed journal that did not improve silicon chip manufacturing. It walked away from silicon entirely. The team built a working prototype of a transistor that uses a different material, a different architecture, and operates on different physical principles than every commercial chip currently in production anywhere in the world. In laboratory testing, the prototype was approximately 40% faster than the most advanced 3-nanometer chips that Intel and TSMC are producing today, while consuming roughly 10% less power. This video is about exactly what was built, why it represents something fundamentally different from a normal incremental improvement, and what it means for the American comeback plan that Intel announced for 2026. By the end of this video, you will understand why this is real, what its honest limits are, and why the conversation about who leads in semiconductors is shifting in ways that are not yet being publicly discussed. If stories like this are what you come here for, hit like and subscribe before we go any further. Let us get into it. The wall that silicon hit. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what is actually happening at the leading edge of conventional semiconductor manufacturing. Modern chips are built using transistors, microscopic switches that turn on and off billions of times per second. For roughly 5 decades, the industry has made these transistors smaller every generation. Smaller transistors mean more of them fit on a chip, which means more processing power, lower energy use, and lower cost per unit of computation. The general rule, known as Moore's Law, held remarkably well for those 5 decades. It is no longer holding well. Below the 3-nanometer process node, conventional silicon transistors start to behave in ways that physics did not previously force engineers to deal with. The most fundamental problem is quantum tunneling. At extremely small scales, electrons stop behaving like classical particles confined within their assigned channels. They start to leak through the insulating layers that are supposed to keep them in place, simply because the layers have become thin enough that quantum mechanics allows the electrons to pass through them. The practical result is that very small silicon transistors leak electrical current even when they are supposed to be off. That leakage wastes energy, generates heat, and limits how densely chips can be packed before they become uncontrollable. The industry has developed clever responses. New transistor architectures like FinFET and now gate-all-around designs control the electron flow more effectively than older planar transistors. But each new generation requires more engineering effort to extract less performance gain than the previous one. Silicon, the material that has carried the entire computing revolution, is approaching a physical wall. Intel's response to this wall is the 18A process, which uses 2 new technologies called RibbonFET and PowerVia. RibbonFET is Intel's name for its gate-all-around transistor design. PowerVia is a power delivery method that routes current through the back of the silicon wafer instead of through the same side as the signal layers, freeing up space and reducing interference. These are real innovations. Intel has reported that 18A wafer yields rose from approximately 5% at the end of 2024 to roughly 10% by mid-2025. The first major product on this process, the Panther Lake consumer chip, is expected in January 2026. A server-class chip called Clearwater Forest is also planned for 2026. This is the leading American answer to the silicon scaling problem. It is impressive engineering, and it is still silicon. The material that is not silicon. The team at Peking University, led by Professor Peng Heilun, did not try to make silicon work better. They selected a different material entirely. The semiconductor in their transistor is bismuth oxyselenide, or Bi2O2Se. The gate insulator is bismuth selenium oxide, or Bi2SeO5. These are not exotic laboratory curiosities. Both are members of a class of materials known as two-dimensional semiconductors, layered structures that are functionally just a few atoms thick. Compared to silicon, bismuth-based semiconductors offer three properties that matter directly for next-generation chip design. First, higher carrier mobility. This is a measure of how quickly electrons can move through the material. Higher mobility means transistors can switch faster while using less energy, which is the central goal of every chip generation. Second, a high dielectric constant in the matched gate insulator. This allows the gate to control the channel with greater precision at extremely small scales, reducing the leakage problem that plagues sub-3-nanometer silicon. Third, mechanical flexibility and stability at the atomic scale. Silicon, when you try to use it in layers only a few atoms thick, becomes unstable and prone to defects. Bismuth-based two-dimensional materials hold their structure at thicknesses where silicon falls apart. The architecture of the Peking University prototype is a gate-all-around field effect transistor, the same general design family Intel is using in 18A. The difference is that Intel's design uses the gate-all-around structure to keep silicon competitive. The Peking University design uses it to extract performance from a fundamentally different material. In benchmarks reported in the published study, the prototype achieved approximately 40% higher operating speed than 3-nanometer silicon chips currently produced by Intel and TSMC, while consuming roughly 10% less power. Professor Peng Heilun described the distinction in a way that captures the strategic significance directly. Conventional chip improvement, he said, is a shortcut. Building two-dimensional transistors on a different material is changing lanes. That phrase, changing lanes, is the right way to think about what is happening here. This is not Chinese researchers trying to catch up to Intel and TSMC on the Silicon Highway. It is Chinese researchers building a different highway entirely. How sanctions accelerated this? The October 2022 sanctions were designed to do something specific. They were designed to block Chinese access to the equipment needed to compete on the silicon roadmap. That goal was largely achieved. China cannot legally purchase the EUV lithography machines that ASML produces. Without those machines, no Chinese fab can manufacture 3-nanometer or 2-nanometer silicon chips at competitive scale. The implicit assumption behind the sanctions was that this would force China into a long, expensive game of trying to develop its own EUV equivalent. A game that, given the engineering complexity of EUV technology, would take many years to complete. What seems to have happened instead is that significant Chinese research effort moved away from the silicon roadmap entirely. If you cannot win the silicon game, you can either lose it slowly or you can play a different game. Two-dimensional semiconductors had been an active area of academic research for over a decade before the 2022 sanctions. Researchers around the world had been studying graphene, transition metal dechalcogenides, and various other layered materials as potential alternatives to silicon. The work was promising but mostly academic because silicon was still good enough. The 2022 sanctions changed that calculation for Chinese researchers specifically. The silicon path was no longer a continuous roadmap with predictable improvements. It was a path with a hard wall imposed by foreign governments. Building transistors from materials that do not require EUV lithography became, almost overnight, a significantly more strategic research priority. The Peking University announcement is one visible result of that shift. There are likely others that have not been published yet. What this does to the Intel comeback plan. Intel's 18A is, in industry terms, a comeback plan. After several years of falling behind TSMC at the leading edge, Intel is using 18A to re-establish itself as a credible competitor at the most advanced node. The plan is real, the investment is enormous, and the technology is genuinely impressive. The problem is the timeline. Intel 18A is scheduled to begin commercial production in 2026, with Panther Lake in January and Clearwater Forest later in the year. Yields are still climbing. Production volume will ramp gradually through 2026 and 2027. By the time 18A is producing at full commercial scale, the bismuth transistor work being done at Peking University and similar institutions will be 3 or 4 years further along than it is today. That does not mean China will have a commercial bismuth chip in 2027 or 2028. Almost certainly, it will not. The path from working laboratory prototype to commercial production at scale is long, expensive, and frequently unsuccessful. But the comparison is no longer apples to apples. Intel is competing on the silicon roadmap. Significant Chinese research is no longer on that roadmap. If bismuth-based two-dimensional transistors reach commercial production by 2030, even at limited scale, the entire framework of the current sanctions regime starts to lose meaning. Sanctions on EUV lithography matter only if EUV lithography is the gating technology. For chips made from a fundamentally different material, with fundamentally different manufacturing processes, EUV restrictions are not the right tool. This is what makes the Peking University result strategically significant even at the prototype stage. It does not have to be commercial right now. It only has to be plausible enough that the long-term strategic picture starts to shift. The honest limits. It is important to be clear about what this announcement is and is not. It is a working laboratory prototype, validated through peer-reviewed publication, demonstrating better performance than current commercial silicon chips on a small scale. It is not a commercial product. It is not a manufacturing process that can be deployed at industrial scale today. And it is not a guarantee that bismuth-based chips will ever reach mass production. The path from a working laboratory transistor to a working commercial chip involves solving an enormous range of problems that the prototype does not have to address. Manufacturing yield, production at the scale of millions of wafers per year, integration with existing supply chains for packaging, testing, and distribution, reliability over years of consumer use, compatibility with existing software ecosystems, cost competitiveness against silicon, which has the advantage of 50 years of accumulated industrial optimization. Most laboratory breakthroughs do not survive contact with these challenges. Many promising materials over the past 3 decades have demonstrated superior performance in the lab and never reached commercial scale. A realistic assessment of the bismuth transistor research is that it could plausibly reach commercial production within 5 to 10 years if the underlying physics holds up at scale and if Chinese industry commits the resources needed to develop the manufacturing infrastructure. It could also fail to reach commercial production at all. That is a real possibility. What it has already done, regardless of how the production story plays out, is shift the strategic conversation. The bigger picture. The October 2022 sanctions were intended to slow Chinese semiconductor development by approximately 10 years. 3 years later, the visible result is that China is now leading public research in at least one promising post-silicon technology direction, while the United States is doubling down on a silicon roadmap that has known physical limits. That is not the outcome the sanctions were designed to produce. This does not mean China has won, or that Intel has lost, or that silicon is dead. None of those statements would be accurate. Silicon will continue to dominate semiconductor production for at least another decade, probably longer. Intel 18A is a serious technology that will deliver real performance improvements when it reaches commercial production. TSMC, Samsung, and other foundries are continuing to innovate at the leading edge. But the assumption that the West sets the technological agenda and other countries follow it is no longer a safe assumption. Sometimes when you block a country's access to your roadmap, what you actually do is force them to build a different one. Whether the bismuth transistor scales to commercial production or not, the lesson it carries is already real. Sanctions can stop you from competing on the field your opponent has chosen. They cannot stop your opponent from choosing a different field. The next decade of semiconductor competition is going to look very different from the last one. If this gave you something to think about, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss what we cover next. Turn on notifications because we are tracking more stories at this scale, where geopolitics, technology, and engineering collide. And here is the question I want you to answer in the comments. Do you think bismuth-based transistors will reach commercial production within the next 10 years? Or is this another promising laboratory result that will quietly fade away the way many others have before it? Drop your honest answer below. I read every single one.